The statement is, I'm one hell of a roommate, and
it's just
I've
like,
got your back.
hello, nice to meet my roommate. Nice to meet you. He walks in like a fucking suit, hair slicked back. Little flower petals are trickling behind him that he paid like a 5-year-old to throw.
Yep.
and then he'll introduce Maki to your
And
mom.
I'll purposely show her the pug pillow and just be like, this is his wife.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Any Chat Box episode 26. I'm your host, Craig, for this fine evening. It's been quite a while since I've actually done this, so forgive me if I am rusty.
Says the guy who literally hosted an episode of another podcast literally like a couple days ago.
Yeah, that's true. We are a weekly anime podcast dedicated to all things that we love about anime and the industry. Joining me today are the ragtag team of anime enthusiasts. First off, the producer of the show, Cass.
Yo.
The precious cinnamon roll that had to fly all the way across the country because she's too pure and innocent for this world, Cammy.
Every single time you do that, I just feel bad. Hello.
Yo.
I'm still here.
And the gentleman who has now joined the Forever 3-0 club like me, John.
Hello.
I'm outing your age. How does it feel?
Hey, he's still forever younger than you.
It's
true.
Yeah, by a week?
Still makes a difference, bro. Still counts.
Okay.
It's his birthday today, everybody. So if you're listening, give him a shout out in the comments, please.
Happy birthday
Which leads me to
you.
which leads me to my question, John. Why are you here?
Because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning where he is. Where do you expect him to be?
Fair point.
I had my
Outside
happy
of
birthday. It's technically no longer my birthday anymore. So
it is where I am. It's still your birthday for another several
hours. It's your birthday in our hearts.
Speaking of things in all of our hearts, social media is a part of our hearts.
I mean,
Twitter.com/theanychatbox is where you can find us, and we can shoot updates about our episodes and production schedules. If we have any hitches in tech, we'll let you know via there first. You can also hit us up on anychatmail@gmail.com if you want to email in topic suggestions, anime reviews. You want to say, yo, you guys are wrong in your impression of ABC anime because it is a masterpiece when we obviously thought it was not. You can also find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. You know, those services in which you actually can rate and listen to us. As well as hit us up on our Patreon to donate some hot muns. Patreon.com/theanychatbox. Sorry, anychatbox. Patreon.com/anychatbox. And without further ado, guys, main topic. Anime can be wholesome and kid-friendly. Let's see. But it also can be adult and serious. I just wanted to talk about some feel-good shows that, and obviously, it seems as though anime can be perceived as kind of kiddie or gratuitous and dumb from an outsider's perspective. I just wanted to get your opinions on all this.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like all of us as anime fans at some point have heard from somebody, oh, that anime stuff is just for kids. Or you've probably maybe also heard the other end of, oh, that anime stuff is terrible for our kids. And it's, showing them all this impure stuff. Mm-hmm. There's always just one extreme stigma. And I'd kind of like to be here to say, or maybe just like talk back at both of those stigmas.
To defend, to counter argue the stigma that anime is dumb. Why are you watching these dumb cartoons when you're not a kid? Right?
Yeah.
Or on the other hand, is you're into that anime stuff? You're a pervert, aren't you? You must be into all sorts of weird hentai shit.
Which, hey, in some cases may be true, but you don't have to immediately associate.
Exactly.
I like that. I had a weird thing growing up where I myself was just such a huge fan of Sailor Moon. My parents, let us watch what we watched for the most part. It was no big deal. I had a friend who I introduced to Sailor Moon. We used to hang out like every single day when she stayed at her grandparents' house. And then when her mom, though, found out that we would watch Sailor Moon and get into it, she was uncomfortable with having my friend watch it. And I was like maybe 8 or 9 at the time. I don't know. I was a kid. And I couldn't understand it. Her mom said it was something about the transformations. Anybody who's seen Sailor Moon knows that, when they transform, they're not wearing any clothing. And to be fair, when they transform, they're kind of scantily clothed. But as a kid, to me, like none of that ever registered as anything sexual or weird. And I couldn't understand that perspective. Her mom did kind of end up being okay with letting us watch it. But, when we were watching it, we were never thinking, oh my gosh, they're naked or anything. You know what we did with Sailor Moon as kids? It had us go outside afterwards and we made up a whole nother alternate universe to Sailor Moon, and we would play these characters and we'd be playing outside using our imaginations, just being kids. It wasn't corrupted. It wasn't corruption or anything. So yeah, that was kind of weird. I can understand it now as I'm older and I am jaded and I know more of the world, but I still don't. I still think it's what anime you watch. As with any medium, it's what movie you watch. It's what TV show you watch. It's not the entire medium itself.
Yeah, you can't lump all of them into one stigma. Rather, I mean, let's face it. I mean, Sailor Moon and Precure, they go through their henshin sequence and they blur out their clothes to pop on new clothes with the magic, and it's pretty. It's PG, whereas other ones would actually legitimately just over sexualize it with the butt and the front and whatnot, the boobs and all that. I'm like, what?
Also, they kind of made, if I remember correctly about Sailor Moon transformations, their skin turns really sparkly and glowy and shiny, and all you can see is their eyes. The rest of their body isn't detailed.
Yes, you're exactly right. It's colors or sparkly backgrounds. My friend Angie and I were talking about it, and she mentioned she always thought it was the shade or elements color of their planet, so it was just part of then more of the magic power connecting to their planet. It's cool. It's not, we are not perceiving it as sexual or anything.
No, it's not a censorship. It's symbolic.
It's symbolic. Yeah.
I know for a fact that there are other magical girl transformation sequences out there that they're that's nipples. And
yeah. Cass, what do you have to say about henshin sequences and magical girls?
I mean, honestly, I'm right with everybody else, and I never really saw it as an innately sexual thing. If anything, as I got older, I just thought it was ridiculous that the enemies always just stopped and let them go through an entire transformation sequence. I mean, they're vulnerable, stab them or something. That doesn't make any sense.
That was
Oh no, and especially because especially older transformation scenes were seriously super long.
Yeah. Sailor Moon ones too as well.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Cassie just reminded me of a scene from the Digimon movie, our war game, where Diablomon actually does attack them in the in the middle of the Digivolution sequence. And it's like, yeah, why doesn't anyone ever do this? And they're like,
I don't know, maybe they're all just as mesmerized as we are watching. They're all just like...
It's kind of like the weird thing with shonen anime where they'll do like 3 episodes of power-ups where honestly they're just like, why are you waiting while Goku goes from like Super Saiyan 1 to Super Saiyan 2? Because if you stop him now, you'll, instead of going just like mesmerized and making those audible gasps, you could have stopped him a little bit ago. But henshin sequences and sexualization aside, I agree with you, Cammy, that a lot of the I never watched the original Sailor Moon. I watched Crystal, but I can get like the wholesome values of these 90s shows and whatnot, where it's not, you could perceive one thing, but it's obviously just like, yo, same with Power Rangers and whatnot. It's outside of anime, but it's still like camaraderie. You can accept friends for their quirks, like the nerd or the jock or something like that, and you stop the bad guy because the power of friendship combined.
Yeah. There's just like, I think that there are a lot of good values even in anime specifically made for kids.
Yeah.
There are good values that are being shown. It's not completely, at the end of the day, just like mental popcorn where you're not really like getting anything out of it. I mean, in that regard, and anybody, please speak up if you can think of a show that maybe like helped shape you or just instilled a value for you when you were younger. But I mean, a lot of magical girl stuff for me just said like, believe in yourself. You are special for being who you are and for having these values of like caring about others. And it was just good. It was positive stuff. And I was like, I didn't like resent people at the end of the day. I knew that there were like lessons to be learned and stuff. So it was a good thing for me watching anime as a kid.
Another good thing about magical girl stuff that as now that I'm older and looking back that I really appreciated, especially with things like Cardcaptor Sakura and Sailor Moon and was it Tokyo Mew Mew and all these other things, is it showed that little girls can fight and win too. It wasn't all, and while I loved several shonen shows when I was very young, I don't know if you'd count like Pokemon as like a shonen, but I mean that is a kid to a degree. That is a kid show, but it was a male protagonist, and he was the one who was always, for the most part, always winning the day. And same could be said for several kids. So it was nice to also have. And that's the thing that anime, I think, also gives, and a lot of cartoons in general are starting to get there for kids as well in the West. But there's always been, since I was young at least, this, little genre for younger boys and this genre for younger girls. And you could mix and match, and little girls could be into shonen and little boys could be into shoujo. And actually, John, I think I had a conversation with you once where you said that you avoided Sailor Moon because you thought it was quote unquote too girly.
I thought it was for girls, and as a boy I shouldn't be watching this. And it was too girly. Yeah. And
then later on you watched Cardcaptor Sakura and you were like, actually this is pretty rad.
Yeah.
So
because Shaoran.
Not even because of Shaoran. I actually thought Shaoran was a bit of a dick because of the dub. And didn't really like him that much. I was like, yeah, Sakura's really awesome. She kicks ass.
It really promotes that children, whether you're boys or girls or whatever you are, or whatever you identify as, you can make a difference in your world. And that's what a lot of children's shows in general, I think, try to push. And it really, maybe we could even touch on this very quickly. Like, I actually find that a lot of Western children's television shows are more mind popcorn, as you put it.
Yeah.
I
absolutely agree.
And not all of them, obviously. There's things like Steven Universe that are very thought-provoking. And several others. But I remember growing up and I'm just like, what did SpongeBob teach me today?
Nothing.
I mean, like,
just dumb laughs.
And I get that there's a lot of like dumb laughs and a lot of children's television shows, but why is it that anime that's thought-provoking is not as okay as these other shows that give you absolutely nothing?
I definitely think that, especially in Western perception of the perception of anime from people that don't know anime but know Western cartoons. Basically, they kind of have that same sort of thing where it's like a lot of Western cartoons are just mind popcorn. Okay, well, this anime thing is also animated, so therefore it's just this.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, kind of relaying back to that this is just for kids sort of stigma.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Going back to Digimon, just the first series of it, Digimon Adventure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you've just got these kids going on wonderful and fantastic adventures with their talking pet monsters. But
Yep.
as you continue to watch it, you've got them all learning really
Growing.
deep and mature lessons. And, like, for example, you've got two brothers who are currently don't get to see each other much because their parents are going through a divorce, and one of them has gone with the mother and the other's gone with his father.
Yep.
And learning to cope with that. And you've got
In season 2, you have the concept of, well, actually, even in season 1, you have the concept of death. What does it mean to, like, have your pet monster die?
Yeah, and that kind of sacrifice to save everyone for the greater good.
Yep.
Learning to see eye to eye with your parents when that might seem outrageous, and, like,
Yep.
Parents don't know anything, obviously.
and
God, stupid adults.
Digimon Tamers outright has one character go through depression.
Serial Experiments Lane, shout out to that director.
Yeah, they do have these dark elements, but it is still a really... It's got dark elements despite being a kiddie series, and these are very good lessons to teach your kids.
Yeah. I think it comes down to accessibility, and a lot of these anime series that are made for kids do make deep messages like that accessible to kids and help them start to think about them or process them.
Yeah, presenting the message in a way that is understandable for them, that they can relate to without being too much. And some series are really good at towing that line in a really good way.
Yeah.
I'm actually trying...
Can we think...
I was just going to say, I'm trying to think back onto my previous point of, besides magical girl shows that I watched growing up, if there were any, like, Western female superheroes, and I'm coming up with, like, nothing.
There was some Western female superhero... Like,
are any of them coming to mind right now? That are
Kim
not...
Possible.
Okay, Kim Possible's one.
I've
Kim
never
Possible
actually
good.
But she's a
watched any of them
teenager.
to know, so...
And that was later, too.
Yeah, that was much
fair,
later.
okay.
I'm talking about, like, when you're growing up, like, you know, people that kids can look up to. I mean, I guess teenagers and older adults are fine, too, but, like, I can't think, I mean, I know there were a lot of girls who were, like, love interests or sidekicks or something.
It was a lot of side characters. I remember watching a lot of cartoons growing up and fixating on really enjoying this female character, but it was really like, oh man, yay, we got a, like, just for example, oh my god, there's a Misty episode. That's awesome. It's like 1 out of like 40 Pokemon episodes, you know, just kind of, it was something that I was like lucky to get in scraps, I think. Yeah. And then, you know, in anime, you have fully dedicated series.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, the primary cartoons, the wholesome cartoons that I watched as a kid. I watched 90s X-Men, I watched 90s Spider-Man, I watched Power Rangers, I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Back then, it was kind of just like, females were kind of relegated to like the side character, like Jubilee, or like Jean Grey as like a romance, Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man's case.
Oh, the
but it's like
in distress.
Yeah. So I didn't really watch Sailor Moon. I watched more Cardcaptors Sakura.
Yeah, but at least in the
the
anime there was that option, though.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. The only other things that really come to mind for me, to a small degree, and again, it was kind of just how this cartoon was meant to be taken, which was a little less serious. But I mean, I liked the Powerpuff Girls a lot as a kid.
All right.
There was one.
Shout out
and
to
then-
Craig McCracken.
Yeah, there was one. And then the only other thing I can really think of, and this was maybe like middle school, and this had a total anime influence on it, but Starfire and Raven from Teen Titans.
Yes.
I suppose so, but that show, in my opinion, didn't really focus on them specifically. There were episodes where it did.
Yeah.
But that was more as like a group.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
even
again,
then,
I think that it has
let's
a
be
lot
honest
of-
here, most of the focus was on Robin.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
And
the
like I said
Deathstroke.
too, I think it's totally like anime, influenced
absolutely.
as well.
Of
so-
course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Heck,
Yeah,
they
so
got
I'm
a-
like, Powerpuff Girls.
They actually got a Japanese group to sing the intro to Teen Titans.
Yeah, Puppy Yumi Yumi.
I do know that, like, in a
Yeah.
lot of, I mean, it's getting to be not as big as of a thing now. Like I said, Steven Universe, most of the main superheroes in that show are girls. Who take care of Steven and guide him and so on and so forth. But I'm talking about, like, when we were growing up, it was pretty slim pickings. But
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's getting better, a lot better as we've gotten older. And there's a lot,
it's
but
progressive.
back then, at least, we still had Cardcaptor Sakura, and we had Sailor Moon, we had Tokyo Mew Mew, we had so many things that little girls could also latch onto, and I think that's something that is important and often overlooked.
Yeah.
Can we think of wholesome content for like an adult, like that would not be construed as sexual or whatnot?
Sweetness and Lightning,
Yes.
Barakuman.
Yeah, the Iyashike genre, like the like relaxing slice of life sort of shows fall into that. So like Barakamon, Sweetness and Lightning, Flying Witch came out not too long ago.
I've heard good things.
I haven't seen that.
Plug again, Natsume Eugene Show. There's
a lot of stuff that just gets over, and that's the other side of the coin, is that either one, it's seen as not appropriate for children, or it's too kiddie, but there's also that aspect of, oh my god, it's just a bunch of porn, when there is a lot of very serious stories. I think one of the most gripping things, actually two of the most gripping shows I have ever seen in my life, just period, across all media, has been anime shows, and one of them was Monster, and one of them was Rakugo Shinju.
Yeah.
And those weren't.
And those were anime.
Yeah.
But if I were to compare that to like every other movie I've ever watched, if I were to compare it to every book I've read, of course there are other things that stand out, but I feel like those tell an adult story in one of the most chilling ways I've ever experienced. But a lot of people will look at the covers and be like, oh, this is for kids.
It like, I've never saw Monster, but you could also say the same of like, I know they're not adult. Well,
they're extremely
blurring on
adult.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously in Monster, I never saw it, but like I'm also thinking of like other stuff that could be construed like, what is it, Death Note, or like Bakuman. A look into the industry. That's kind of like adult comedy, kind of like slice of life in the
You
manga
classify
genre.
Death Note as a adult comedy?
No, Bakuman.
Okay, well you did say
trying
Death
to-
Note and
Well, Death Note is an adult story. Bakuman can be an adult story.
I mean, I guess in some ways Death Note is a comedy.
Sure. Chocolate, right?
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
I swear if the Netflix movie does not have that, then it has failed.
I mean, it's already failed in a lot of ways, but we're not going to get into that. That's a completely other podcast topic. We are not going there right now.
Okay.
Another interesting thing I guess I could bring up really quickly is the film Grave of the Fireflies, which is a very serious, very real story. It's a story about war. And Roger Ebert, one of the, late beloved film critics in America, has quoted Grave of the Fireflies as one of the best war films of all time. And part of that is because it's animated. like that adds to the effect, that adds to being able to process the story despite how gruesome it is. Like he basically mentions that the animation is a complementary quality rather than just saying something like this would be better in live action. And whenever, obviously there are a lot of things that come to mind, but whenever someone says anime is just for kids, I'm like, hey, let's go watch this movie. The same could be said for Monster and a lot of those other shows that were just mentioned.
Miyazaki.
There's always going to be a title we can use to disprove.
Yeah. Miyazaki and Ghibli films as a whole, their slew of films are wholesome. They have messages. They have adults. They have children. Whimsical fantasy to grounded realism. Well, actually, they kind of, even in the grounded realism, they have a bit of fantasy. Shoutouts to Wind Rises for that. But
yeah,
it is
good example.
Miyazaki being compared to Disney, I can kind of see it, but I also kind of disagree with it because, like, when would Disney ever come out with a movie like Grave of the Fireflies? They won't.
I think that they're more referring to things like Ponyo and a lot of movies that have been licensed and distributed by Disney.
Yeah.
So
dubbed by primarily Disney.
Yeah. That was actually another point I was about to make, is that contributing everything Ghibli has ever made just to Miyazaki is not fair in any way, shape, or form. Especially since
he's directed some, but not all of them.
Yeah, Takahata has done some of them, and his son did a few of them.
Did The Cat Returns, if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure, but I do know that his son did do Tales of whatever the crap that movie was that was real bad.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to ask Cassie what her favorite Ghibli film is, it's obviously Tales from Earthsea.
I mean, if anything, it was a beautiful moment, and if anything, I would rather suffer with a beautiful woman.
Oh, that's
you're so
sweet.
But yeah, it's just so interesting because I feel like anime in and of itself has all of these negative stigmas attached to it when it really seems unfair, considering it should be viewed just like any other kind of media or entertainment medium.
Of course.
But in a lot of cases isn't, especially with a Western audience. I remember one horror story I have is I typically most of my romantic relationships have been long distance, but there was one boy who I dated who was actually local when I was in college, and I brought him home, and one of the first questions my mom asked him when we walked in the door was, "Are you into this anime bullshit too?"
Oh my god.
And it's like, one, that makes a terrible first impression and is very rude, but just goes to show how little she took it seriously. And also how little she thought that would hurt me. And it's really, I get really upset when people seem to completely dismiss it as any kind of other medium. And I've never been able to convince my mom to sit down and watch a movie with me when I know if I could sit her down and make her watch Wolf Children or something, she would love it.
The way my parents always viewed video games and anime as a whole is just like, oh, it's cartoons. Oh, it's you're playing your video game. Okay. I mean, my stepdad and my mom never looked down or like said, "Oh, you're into this shit too." God.
Well, I'm not saying
like,
all
whatever.
Parents are that way. I was just saying that's how my mother was. There was a long time where I wasn't allowed to watch anime at all until I got into my teens, and she couldn't really control me anymore.
Fair.
Cassie, I'm gonna go with you next time to meet your parents, and your mom is gonna ask me the same thing, and then I'm gonna like put my arm around you and be like, yes, that's actually how we met, and it's the prime reason that we're best friends to this day. Don't you love it too? Don't you love things that make your daughter happy? Because I should do.
I've always said, and I've joked about this, I don't know if Cass remembers this, but I told her if I ever met her parents, I'd have to wear a suit. In order to make
I think that
a statement.
I think that you are being a little overkill. Like, my mom has calmed down in the last few years,
it's not that. It's I got to make a statement. I got to set the bar so high.
Why? I'm not marrying you.
I know, but still,
you're not my boyfriend. You're not my future husband. Why do you need to make a statement?
The statement is, I'm one hell of a roommate, and
it's just
I've
like,
got your back.
hello, nice to meet my roommate. Nice to meet you. He walks in like a fucking suit, hair slicked back. Little flower petals are trickling behind him that he paid like a 5-year-old to throw.
Yep.
and then he'll introduce Maki to your
And
mom.
I'll purposely show her the pug pillow and just be like, this is his wife.
There you go. So he has to make it a serious ordeal. That's the thing here.
But yeah, she's calmed down a lot in recent years, and I highly doubt she would hold it. But that was something that did happen when I was younger, and she was very, very, very rude about a lot of choices I made in high school because she thought it was something I would, quote unquote, in her words, grow out of eventually.
Mm.
So
Yeah. I mean,
it was actually hilarious because I remember sitting, and I'll get off my mom tangent, but she is always the best example for a topic like this. There was one time where I sat her down and we were at the table and I was like, you do realize that there are adults in this industry. Do you think it's 5-year-olds that are actually making these television shows? I hate to break it to you, Mom, but 12-year-olds aren't actually studio producers.
mm-hmm.
And her response was, well, that's different. It's like, okay, how? And then she's like, I don't want to talk about this. And then we talked about something. But I love that. I love the argument of, I don't have an answer for you, so let's just talk about something else. Because that's the thing, people don't actually want to think about it.
It wasn't my parents, but it was my sister who was constantly, when are you going to grow up over this? And has more recently learned that no, I'm not going to grow up out of it. I'm 30 now, and I also turn.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
My main go-to argument against that was growing old is mandatory, growing up is optional. But
I like that.
I think that's on a t-shirt somewhere.
Probably, I wouldn't doubt it.
But I also have gotten her to read some manga, and I actually got her to read some manga.
That's impressive.
And that convinced her, okay, no, there are some more mature topics that aren't just adult in these things, and just, that got her to see from my perspective a bit better. She still thought I was wasting my money on Gundam kits, and I am, but it keeps me happy, so who cares? It's my own money.
I mean, and let's be honest
it's my hobby, man.
Every human being, wastes their money on things.
On something.
I look back at all my shit I've wasted money on, and I'm like, God, man, why do I do this to myself? Shelf space, come on.
But I mean, I know that my mom goes out of her way to buy, I mean, it's a kind of a weird comparison, but to buy extremely overpriced kitchenware. She could buy something that's cheaper and will do the same thing. But that's what she likes, and that's what she enjoys. You don't see me going up to her husband, who's my stepfather, and being like, are you into this stupid kitchenware too?
Kitchenware.
But is he, though? Is he?
Not really. I actually am very interested on what they see in each other because they're very different people, but I guess that also makes them work. But that's a completely different topic. Opposites attract, as it were, apparently.
Huh. I had no idea.
That being said, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. Did anyone want to bring up any other points on this topic, or should we segue to our review today?
Yeah.
The only other thing that I can mention, and this we will eventually have this topic in the future, but I will say that this is one of the few things where I encourage dubs. And anybody who says dubs have no purpose, it's to get people like my mother and John's sister and I don't know, Cammy's dad, or whoever we can convince to sit down and watch something with us to actually watch it. Because the only other complaint that I hear from people is, how can you like this? It's in another language and it's boring to read subtitles.
I have so many anime that I'm like,
yeah.
I'm certain my family would love this if only it was dubbed. And then, hey, Blu-ray release, yay, awesome! Japanese with subtitles only. Fuck.
I mean, you started watching Hunter x Hunter with your nephew, right? Are you guys watching it dubbed, or are you watching
My
it
Hero Academia with my nephew, and we are watching that dubbed.
Oh.
I am actually considering showing
For some
him,
reason, I thought Hunter x Hunter.
Hunter x Hunter, but if I do, that would be dubbed. Because...
okay, I mixed that up. I could have sworn you watched something Hunter x Hunter.
Was
it
the
baby
that was with the baby
asleep?
falling asleep. I was
it was the baby
babysitting
falling
my
asleep.
baby nephew.
Okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I forgot about that for a moment.
But yeah, I mean, if you can, it's a great way to get people who otherwise are not willing to give this medium a chance to have no excuse, really. And I think it provides some wonderful moments, like when you got to watch Kids on the Slope with your father, Cammy, and stuff like that.
My gosh, yes. And I've, to speak up more on that, I've tried to watch some stuff subbed with my dad, but even I can just tell, like, instantly that the engagement is a little bit lessened by having to read subtitles. So yeah, dubbing definitely has its merits, and I am so glad it's around, because it grants a lot more accessibility to share things I love with people.
Yep. On that point, I have listened to a podcast where they do watch-alongs with dubbed anime, where they talked about the latest My Hero Academia and Attack on Titan Season 2, and they said they think subs are okay, but they prefer dubs because they can admire the animation, they can be engrossed in what's happening on screen, so it's accessibility at that rate too. And that kind of ties back into what Cass was saying, accessibility to engross your audience and get the viewer engaged, the little one engaged is effective.
I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about subs versus dubs at some point in our lives as podcast people, and we're not going to get into it super now. But yeah, I agree. It's an accessibility thing, and I think that a lot of other prejudice that comes into not just anime but any foreign media is why would you even bother? And the best way to get past that is say, okay, well, you know, I've got Little Witch Academia here that is, you know, dubbed in like 5 different languages.
Is that a
Speaking of My Little Witch
Academia? Well, why would you ever bring that up?
I wonder. It's almost as if I didn't.
Motherfucking segue. Hey guys. So we're going to be talking about Little Witch Academia. Guess what? It's developed by Studio Trigger. You know, the guys that were a part of Gainax at one point and decided to say, fuck it. We're going to be cool kids and make our own studio. They've done other shows, such as Kill la Kill, which apparently was the savior of anime, quote unquote. And Kiznaiver, the one about sharing pain. I never watched that one.
It was a good series.
The synopsis goes as such. Atsuko Kagari is an ordinary girl who joins the renowned Witch Academy for Witch Girls, Luna Nova Academy. When she was younger, she went to the Magical Festa, a magic show hosted by a witch named Shiny Chariot. Akka was so mesmerized and inspired by Shiny Chariot's performance that she dreamed to someday be a quote-unquote cool witch like her. The young and impressionable Akko takes Shiny Chariot's words as her own motto. Quote, never forget, a believing heart is your magic!
Da-da-da-da!
Who wants to start? Who wants to start?
Well, I mean,
Craig, you are the one that picked this show, right?
I picked the show.
No, it was John.
John did.
Oh, John, yes.
So, John, you get first impression. What? Kick it off.
So, I initially picked the show because, for one, there was the OVA that came out, or the 2 OVAs that have come out previously that I adored and led me to actually back the Kickstarter for this to happen in the first place. And yeah, there was a Kickstarter and it was a huge success. Bigger success than they were expecting, actually. Because they wasn't sure how much demand there was going to be for more Little Witch Academia, and turns out there was a lot. So, yeah, it was a really good first 3 episodes, and So I gave it a pass, and now we are talking about the full series, and I do not regret my decision. So,
which is a lot less than most of us can say, or sorry, a lot more than most of us can say.
From the winter season, yeah, that one's kind of bare bones, though.
I mean, I think that one of the great things about Little Witch Academia, just get us kicked off and starting, especially in regards to the story, is right where the synopsis left off. The whole believing is your magic. It is a wonderful little life lesson. Wink, wink. That we learn from watching this anime. It's almost as if it's like a show that I would have watched in the 90s growing up as a kid and probably would have really appreciated. Wink.
Yep.
Wink. Yeah, it's...
Yes, it's not...
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No.
no, you first.
Okay, you first. Oh my god. It's almost like we were watching the show together last night, and we both talked about how we had the same feeling of this is something that we would have... Well, not even that we would have. That gave us the same feeling and sense of wonder that we had as watching a lot of animes that we did when we were growing up.
And that's...
Now you go.
And that's almost exactly what I was going to say. And that's how the story really kicks off. In very similar regards to a lot of origin stories for young people, or in this case, a young lady who's really trying to figure out who she is. And she's so full of wonder and dreams that have not yet been crushed by adult society. And...
Oh, God, no.
Yes.
And really that is something that she does struggle with. And I think that it is really, really well told. What do you guys think? What? Come on.
I agree.
I agree. So this show reminds me of, much like a Disney cartoon, where it's wholesome, it's got good, you got friends, and you go to school together. So it's like a weird... I want to say it's like a weird combination of Harry Potter meets fucking Disney. Like if Disney ever did a cartoon on Harry Potter, and kind of extended it to not be as, oh, Lord Voldemort is always in the background bullshit. You know, it's just more misadventures and good feels all along, and you'll actually learn life lessons in this show. Good qualities of a person to better yourself, and again, like Cass said, the mantra that Akko believes in, you just gotta believe is your magic. And if you believe that you can get shit done, you can fucking do it. It's fucking inspirational if you think about it.
No matter how much life knocks you down, get up and carry on. Try it again.
Yep, pretty much.
There were also even just some very modern lessons for today's young kids. Like, there was the whole commentary of, like, being in a society where you are different and having to persist despite people's, like, judgments of you, for example. Episode 4 was one of my favorites, which kind of, in a weird way, addresses, like, being really passionate about something, like, having something you're really interested in. It gave me vibes of, like, when I finally decided to go to a convention for the first time, and I had, like, the shared experience of being with people that loved something the same way I did. Later on, there's, like, lessons about just, like, what people think of you and how to deal with that. There's a lot of lessons that, like, not to discredit any of the shows in the 90s that I grew up with, but a lot of the lessons were sometimes more basic or more, like, simple for any time. There are a lot in this show that I think are very oriented to the time period it's made in, and I think that's really cool. It's current.
For sure, right?
Including, but not limited to, the fact that the world is changing around you in regards to things going outdated, like magic, and all this crazy new technology coming out, and how good is it to incorporate that into our daily lives? Is convenience the best thing? And while they didn't tackle that, I feel, explicitly by the end, it's definitely something they at least nodded to. And they also nodded to how the world around you can change very quickly depending on people's emotions, whether it be in a country you live in or others. Though I think what really makes up the story is these wonderful little characters and how full of personality every single one of them was.
I love Susie. Or Susie.
Susie. Susie's a lot of fun.
Cass, I know we talked about the episode. We talked a little bit before we recorded episode 8, I believe it was, the episode that focused on her. Because the show in the first half is episodic, and it kind of focuses on a character. Episode 8 dealt on Susie. I feel as though she's crazy. And I love that about her.
Yeah, and without going into explicit spoilers, it does take the time. The show, and I'm happy it had 25 episodes. Because it does take the time. Almost every single character that's important enough has at least one or sometimes 2 episodes, and I think the case of Diana later on. But each of them has at least one little episode where you get to explore who they are and what makes them tick. And
same with like Amanda too. Amanda probably gets the most exposure outside of Diana from the side characters.
I mean, she had 1 episode. I mean, I would argue that she had just as much exposure as Constance, or however you say.
Constance? Yeah.
Yeah, they each had 1 episode where you really got to figure out what their motivations were. I think I actually was mildly disappointed that I wanted more Susie and Lotte.
Yeah, right?
I agree. I loved the episode that was focused on Lotte, and I wasn't expecting that. Like, I didn't mind her character, but I figured she's, the generic, like, intelligent, soft-hearted, like, best friend, and I really loved her episode. Episode 4, it was one of my favorites. And that just shows, like you mentioned again, how well they're able to execute these characters. But I do agree. I wish that Susie and Lotte had just as much bearing in the series as, say, Diana, because I think they did a good job with bringing Diana into the forefront. But I also wish there was more with Susie and Lotte as well.
Yeah,
also, some of them
and some of the character. Oh, go ahead. I think you're about to say exactly what I was about to say.
Some of the new characters that weren't in the OVA, like Andrew. Andrew.
Andrew.
He's great.
I won't get started on that.
He actually got quite a bit of character development despite being a side character. And, when we first meet him, he's like, this guy's kind of a dick.
A dick.
And then, there's a bit more to him than just this, and there's a nicer side to him. But he's still a bit of a dick, and then he, as we get to know him, we see him develop as a character, and, you're actually kind of cool. Okay, fair enough.
Again, it ties back to the whole mantra of the show. You believe in others, and he can kind of see, just like, wow, okay, this character or Akko is cool.
Let's not get too explicit about this, guys.
Oh, I know.
We're tiptoeing around spoilers.
I wasn't getting anything specific about what he did. Just like,
that's all I was gonna say.
No, it's fine. But, I mean, I think it's just, I guess where you were going, Craig, is that it's good. One of the things that is shown in the show over and over, not is just believing, it's also learning from other characters. And I liked where you were going. I just didn't want you to explicitly say who he learned from, and you were getting there.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, I mean, Akko learns a lot of lessons from lots of different people. Lotte and Susie learn a lot from Akko and other people. The professors in the high school, at the academy, they learn things. Everybody in this show is learning from and bouncing off each other, and nobody is really, with the exception of the second half, nobody is really an antagonist or a bad person, or really gives anything to this show that makes you think, wow, they're such a horrible character. It's more about them confronting themselves and their own little, hiccups in their journey and how they learn from each other. And that's really cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that makes the very first half of the show really episodic, but also enjoyable. Whereas the second half of the show, which I think we can talk about without getting too explicit, switches to a more, as Craig put it to me earlier today, an underlying plot is kind of happening in the second half that we didn't have in the first. And I appreciated that, but also didn't appreciate that, because I feel that and we can discuss this, I suppose, I felt the second half of the show, while a little bit stronger in focus, annoyed me a lot with how they executed some things. Not necessarily character relationships, but once you actually threw an antagonist into the fold, it became less necessarily about all of the characters growing together and mostly just about Akko, which isn't bad, but also kind of just made me a little sad. I don't know what you guys think, but...
I think that, like, to a degree, I can agree with you. I think where it came through for me, and while, especially by the end, I think they do a really good job with having a really good plot, but a lot of the second half, I would start an episode, and I was a little impatient or a little bored because I was like, okay, now we're getting all the force plot happening, you know? I'm not getting these little moments of surprise of, like, getting to know the characters and what happened, so I was a little bit just, like, less engaged with the second half than the first half.
That's a better way of putting what I was trying to say. Thank you, Cammy.
Okay, I'm glad it worked.
Contextualization.
I feel like from now on, I need to just hire Cammy as my interpreter. I'm going to say things and then have her put it in better words that make way more sense than the garbage I'm throwing out.
Sometimes I can't words either, and then you help me out in that regard. I think we can have this service for each other. We'll just operate as a dual unit.
How did you...
One may say, I think we're growing as a unit, and we're bouncing off each other.
Like in Little Mitch Academia. But how did you guys feel about the second half in comparison to the first?
Yeah.
Like, did you guys feel the same way, or did you feel different?
I felt like there was an underlying story to the first half of the series. It just wasn't as much in the forefront until the second half.
Yeah.
The introduction of an antagonist was a very drastic change in tone, and I can see why that would throw people off. And I still can't. I agree that it was okay. We're not gonna get as much side character focus anymore, and it's gonna be more focused on Akko. Again, not a bad thing, but it's like, there are other characters you hadn't explored.
I have a question then. Like, without saying any specifics, would the show have been better as a 25 episodic show without an antagonist?
That would be...
It would have been a different show.
Yeah, that would be hard to say without having the example there. So...
Because let me clarify, I don't think the second half of the show is bad. At all.
Of course.
Like, I just felt that it was a very, very quick tonal shift. And also, in addition to that, I felt, and we can talk about this more in spoilers because I want to, but I felt that the antagonist, I didn't feel like her motivations made a lot of sense. Whereas I felt that everything else that happened, like, for example, Diana is a really good example of this. So Diana is the closest thing to a quote-unquote antagonist, even though she's not, that we get in the first half, because she is what Akko runs into the wall with constantly.
She's the eternal rival.
But she's like a rival character without getting too much into it. And that's good, because we can see from Diana's point of view and Akko's at the same time, and even though she may be an antagonistic force in Akko's life, it's not like she's actually blatantly trying to make Akko's life awful.
Of course.
And they just...
She's no Draco Malfoy.
And in the end, I feel like we find that those characters are very similar. And that was actually a really cool thing, I think, that the show did. I didn't get that from our antagonist in the second half at all. I felt nothing for her.
It really, to me, sometimes she was, you know, what she really needed to do was turn around in the leather chair where she's, like, petting her cat, and then she, like, curls her twiddly mustache.
I've been expecting you for some time.
I will say one thing that the antagonist of this show gave me. An insane craving for ramen that I then indulged in at like 3 o'clock in the... I took a break. I watched most of the second half of this show last night with Cammy. Yeah. And Cammy had to take a break and go to bed. So I was like, you know, I think I could use a little break from the show as well. And then I came back and bitch was eating more ramen, and I'm like, fuck it. It's 3 a.m. I'm gonna go make some ramen, and I did. I did.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I'm curious. Last week we talked about Scum's Wish, and a good portion of us binged it. Do you feel as though this show is very bingeable?
Yes.
In the fact that it is episodic?
Yes.
I actually felt
I agree.
Oddly enough, I felt the second half of the series was easier to binge watch than the first half.
Yeah, I can get that.
I think it's because there is more of a plot element to the second half where you're just like, oh, I want to know what happens next. But I think in comparison to something like Kuzuno Hankai, though, is where Craig was getting at. Where I think that Kuzuno Hankai, it's bad to binge because you're going to be dealing with a lot of very intense emotions, and depending on how much it triggers you or makes you think, it actually could dull your senses or dull your enjoyment of the overall process, whereas Little Witch Academia, I would argue, does not.
Yeah. It's very enjoyable, and that's
I think
like
that's,
how I
think that's what he was getting at.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't, for the most part,
I
didn't
agree.
have any
I agree.
issues binging Little Witch Academia. It was a very cute series as well. Very sweet.
Speaking of cute, the animation in the show, I
like how you're like motherfucking segueing all of this. It's awesome.
Well, we do need to get to something other than the characters and story at some point. Though I do think, and I guess we've all at this point agreed that that's really what the focal point and the best part of this show is.
Yes.
Production
values.
How did you guys feel about the production? Because I personally, to kick it off, I thought it was okay. Compared to watching the OVAs, it wasn't nearly as mind-blowing, of course, but that was a 30-minute OVA instead of a budget stretched across 25 episodes, so I get it. But there were times of complete derp in the animation sometimes.
I agree.
Or moments where it was people who don't watch anime all the time could probably notice, whoa, that was an odd frame, but it's okay. But again, 25 episode show, what can you do?
Yeah.
I totally
agree completely. I think it's partially, like you said, because I was very spoiled by the OVA and then the second OVA movie. So no matter what, I was kind of going into it like, this looks a bit like a downgrade. But there were some very creative uses of animation and fun setups for shots, like crazy camera angles or when they did homages to other animation styles. And they do that. It's very versatile. Yes. Especially in the Susie episode. There's
Steamboat
a movie sequence that is an homage to a completely other film or animation style.
Steamboat
there are things there were things that I appreciated about it, but on a whole, animation's not necessarily what I would highlight in the show. It's serviceable, and it's got some good sakuga where it has cute expressions.
It's got it obviously saves its budget for the good moments in the show, but I mean, I'm sure if they probably had a tighter episode count, they probably would have had a better budget quality all across the board. But it's still good. Not like Garbo, but it's definitely highlights better or more impactful scenes.
There are moments of gorgeous animation as well. I know that there were a few scenes in the final episode where I was like, oh, that's where they poured it all.
Right? I was thinking the same thing.
I saw that and I was like, hype.
I like to think that while they were creating the show, they were all just sitting in a room and they had a piggy bank. And for each episode, they shook out the piggy bank and they were like, okay, this is how much we're allowed to use on this episode. And then they got to the last episode and the director of the entire production came in with a hammer and they all bowed their heads and then they freaking smashed it open and saw whatever else they had left and said, episode 25.
Rest in peace, you poor little piggy.
Music, though, in this show, there were a lot of Celtic-ish sounding numbers that I really liked.
It was very soothing music, very pleasant, and again, it fits with the tone. It's very pleasant and cute.
they definitely took, and something that I can't remember whether it was John or Craig pointed out, that all of the girls at this academy are from different countries, and
I pointed that out,
and I think they purposely went and tried to get music from other countries too, because there was some very interesting sounding tracks in this. And
like Amanda is U.S. and the girl that eats a lot,
Jazaminka, I think is her name.
She's a Russian, if I recall correctly.
I also really liked their main theme as well. You guys know exactly what it is because they played it over and over. But it was a good fit for the show, and when they really wanted to utilize a scene, it utilized it. Like, for example, when it's used in basically the climax in the last episode. It's just like with the trumpets and stuff, and it's just like very victorious sounding. I like that.
The openings were also nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Cass, did the second opening grow on you, or the animation-wise? Because I remember saying
it did. I actually had a really funny conversation with Cammy, which was ironic because I literally had this conversation with her while watching an episode right after me and you had this conversation before me and Cammy started watching. But she made a comment about how the second OP would be great for people who AMV edit.
I can see it.
Whereas one of the points I made to you when I was saying why I liked the first opening a little bit better was I felt that the opening sequences were way more dynamic and there was more movement and would be better for editing. So it's just but that just shows that different people can take different things from this, and I can kind of see where Cammy was coming from as well. I feel like the second, to answer your question, the second opening did grow on me after a while. It's just I think that for me, animation wise, because I love the song almost better and the second opening, but the animation in my personal opinion was more minimalistic. They used a lot of white backgrounds and a lot of people standing in one place for long periods of time.
Right.
I loved how every time we watched the second opening you'd sing "Raise Your Hand."
Yeah, because
that
song got stuck in my head. But you'll notice they did try they kind of tried to distract you from it, but they used a lot of the same backgrounds in that second opening, and I don't know if that was a budget thing. But even when all the girls are flying and Akko's taking, and Akko's changing, it's just the ley line background, and then
on a loop,
on loop, and then when they're walking through the line of witches, it's just a blank white background with no real detail except for very minimalistic shadowing, which is nice. It's clean, but really obvious, in my opinion.
I feel like the first opening had a lot of the classic magical girl shots.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Which to me is two sides, because on one end I'm like, oh look, it's the character running. Oh look, it's everybody looking at them. But at the same time I'm like, oh, it's the character running. Oh, it's all of them being friends. Oh my god, that's the nostalgia factor. So
yes.
It's just kind of, I guess it's also okay, how about this, Cammy? I found a great analogy. So, it's like eating steak 3 days in a row, where it's okay, I'm eating steak for the third time in a row, but then you're like, but goddamn, steak is so good.
That's me with
you also like steak far more than I do. I think this is a very fitting analogy.
Dude,
that's me with tacos.
Okay, fine, fair. Cammy, insert whatever your favorite food is. Where I said steak.
No. You are right. Yes, I think it's a beautifully fitting analogy.
Cammy, what's your favorite food?
Probably ice cream.
Okay. Oh, actually, that's a terrible analogy. Of course, you can eat ice cream.
Oh my god.
I've lost.
All right. That aside.
But
yeah.
Craig.
Yeah.
Craig, do you want to weigh in on the dub? Didn't you watch it dubbed?
Yes. Okay. Without going too much into this, because we could obviously shelve a topic for dubs versus sub at a certain point. I watched both dub and both sub on all of this. Obviously, the first half of it being on Netflix. We talked about Netflix and that's business model last week. The first half of it dubbed entirely, all within 2 sittings. I greatly appreciated it. I love the voice actors. The direction in some of it is kind of weird. Cass did not really like how they went with the magical spells. It sounded like they were trying to. Cass, what was, in your words, what was it again?
Oh dear, you're trying too hard. I mean, and I think that Cammy, I didn't even get as far as Cammy did, but like she said that later on when Akko would try and say spells, she'd just be like, fly, 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 and like, and it just would get grating more so than in the Japanese dub. You can tell they were really getting into it, like they were trying to cast magical spells and really make it seem real. Whereas in the English dub, in my personal opinion, it sounded like they were 5-year-olds trying to pretend to be magic users, and it just was not directed well. But then that isn't something that and I said this to John, and I think, Cammy, I don't think it's that people can't say magical spells in English in a convincing way, because I've seen the Harry Potter movies, and they did just fine. Yep.
Yes.
So that was my issue with it. I thought a lot of the voices were, because I watched, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even get out through all of episode 1 of the dub.
I think you got as far as...
I got to the part where Lotte was like, here, I'm going to take you up on my broom into the ley line.
And then you're like, wow, Stephanie Sheh. No.
That's not nice, because I actually really like Stephanie Sheh.
I know. Shout outs to the voice actors for both dubs. Megumi Han as Akko and Erica Mendez. Funny enough,
Megumi Han also does Gone Freaks from Hunter x Hunter, and it makes me so happy.
Also,
that's a bonus.
Fun fact, Erica Mendez voices Gon in the English dub of Hunter x Hunter.
What?
Yeah.
Does she do Akko as well?
Yeah.
That's hilarious and awesome. I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, but that's fantastic. So It doesn't matter. Okay, guys, so it doesn't matter whether you watch English dub or whether you watch Japanese with subs or just Japanese. Gon is Akko and Akko is Gon.
It all makes sense now.
That's But yeah, Craig, you said you liked the dub though overall, right?
Yes, I definitely did. It should be noted that I watched the movies that way as well, and I thought it was fine. And I watched the Japanese, and I also thought that was fine as well. I feel as though some actors fit the roles better. I think I like the Japanese Ursula a lot more. I don't think we really gave too much acknowledgement to Professor Ursula and how great of a character she is.
Oh, she's amazing. I just don't feel like we can talk about her character without going into spoilers.
Of course,
which I'm sure we will.
But I like her Japanese more than her English voice actress.
I see. Okay.
Guys,
cool.
Do we have anything more to say before we rate this bad boy or piece?
Rate it and jump into spoilers.
I'm ready to rate it.
I don't even
John,
know.
since you picked this...
I can't think of anything else to say beyond going into spoilers, so...
Okay. John,
do you want me to go first?
Yeah, since you picked it.
Go for it.
I'm going to say I loved it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Want to elaborate, or is that it? Is that all you need?
He's like,
I
no.
loved it. No more. I just picture him saying, I
No
love
questions.
it, and then throwing down his mic and being like, no questions.
What else is there to say?
It's like
especially after Kuzuno Honkai,
Oh, yeah.
I kind of needed a really light-hearted, feel-good series, and even though the second half had some darker moments, which we'll talk about in the spoiler section, by the end, at the end of the last episode, in fact, pretty much the entire time I was watching the last episode, I had this dumb grin on my face, and it lasted for like an hour after I finished watching it, to the point that my cheeks were actually sore, but I didn't care. I was that happy with how it ended, and it just left me with such a warm, fuzzy feeling, and I was like, yay, this was great. That I feel like I cannot give it any less than I love it.
I like that.
Next victim.
Cass.
I don't want to go next.
Cammy.
Okay. I'm gonna say that I liked it. There was a lot that the show gave me, just in terms of being really nostalgic, and just reminding me of like that same sense of wonder and happiness and charm that I had watching a lot of these, like, primarily for me, Magical Girl, but watching a lot of anime as a kid. It was also really great when I would come home from a long day and I'd just be in such a bad mood, and then I turn on an episode of this and I'm just so happy and like transported away from everything that upset me. I really think for me, the only thing that takes it away from being a love it is there were just some episodes, primarily, not even just some episodes, the pacing to me, and then primarily a lot of things with like the tone shift in the second half just made it a little under a love it for me. But no, I like it a lot. It's a wonderful show and I'm really happy that I watched it.
I will echo that sentiment by saying I like it as well. I feel as though there are certain elements in the second half of the show, which we will talk about here in a hot minute, which kind of deterred it. I feel as though some elements of the first half were cool, but some episodes I liked more than others when it came to like the episodic nature. But either way, it does not deter the fact that it was overall a great experience. It definitely stood out, and it was, despite me not really despite me starting the show, then watching all of Kuzuno Honkai, then finishing the show, it was good to finish it with this show as a palate cleanser. Very good, feel good.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Do I have to?
Yes.
Yes. No,
Okay.
I mean, I guess you don't have to. I mean, whatever.
I'm the producer. I can say no. No
Sure.
means no. Okay. I'm gonna
means
be
no,
honest. Like
Akko.
I gave this a number rating way easier than I gave this a like it or a love it rating. And the reason why I just wanted some time to think about it, because
it's kind of blurring the lines, right?
it's like, for me, it's either a really high like it or a really low love it. And I feel like I should and I feel like I should go for high than low. So I guess I'll also go with a like it, mostly for the same reasons everybody else has said. And the reason why I kept teetering between the two, between the like and the love, is mostly because the things that I was irritated with this show, which, trust me, I was irritated at times, were things that I actually loved as a child. So it's very hard for me to...
Yeah!
It's like, it's like, for my age and where I am now in life, it's a like it. But if I were to watch this when I was 10 or even 13, it would be a love it, 150%. And that makes it hard for me to give a rating to an audience.
It's like your taste set. It's like you're more like observant of like the tropes and cliches of like the 90s show. I'm sure if you went back and critically looked at Sailor Moon, you would probably...
It's not even... well, that, and it's not even just yes, the cliches bothered me, and that's something that I did want to get into in our spoiler section, is one of the things in the second half that irritated me to no end. But it was mostly also, as Cammie mentioned, the pacing. How completely out of the show it took me sometimes. How sudden tonal shift, almost out of nowhere, really was almost like getting into a car accident and you jerk forward and you don't know what happened to you.
It's just like, get in, loser, we're going shopping.
But... that being said, the show is amazing. It's great. It's wonderful. It gave me happy feelings. But then at the end of the day, I think I'm going to go with a like it, because I'm looking at our group chat. Those of you listening, we have a group chat. And I see something here. A Miss Kobayashi's Maid Dragon. And I'm remembering, out of the feel-good shows I've watched recently, which one of these would I want to rewatch with a friend in the next week? And I think that's going to help me make my determination. I think I'll give it a like it.
Yep.
A very high like it.
Yeah, I think so too. So remember how you said I should just say everything for you? That was a situation where I'm like, Cassie, speak my soul. Absolutely. So
B plus, A minus, sort of
like
Richter
scale
if we're grading this
very high. So
like a term paper.
Why is it that a B plus sounds better than an A minus?
Does it? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'd rather give something
Thing, yeah.
I would rather say high like than low love
yeah.
it. Like that just sounds like I'm demeaning this show, and it doesn't deserve it. For as much as I'm bitching right now, it was a really good show.
It's like a backhanded compliment, a compliment, really. The A- really is.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, versus an earnest compliment. Yeah, I get that.
But yeah, so overall I think that the show gets a like it with a love it from John. So that kind of, brings us to the teeter. So watch it yourself and tell us what you think.
Binge it all on Netflix, guys. Part 2 will come soon.
What do you mean? I was about to say, what do you mean binge it all? It's only half there.
Well, binge the first half and then go to their Twitter and then hopefully we can start a revolution and make it simulcast instead of dump.
That'll never happen.
Guys, let's head to the spoiler room over there. It's got a nice door with a sign.
I really do want to get us like a little picture made where we're all just sitting in comfy chairs in the spoiler room.
You know what? You can just work on it for the video portion of this, but we're good. John, did you side? Do you have something like grievance with the show?
I actually did have. There was one episode that was really hard for me to get through, at least for like the first half of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what episode was that?
It was more of a reason. It was the episode where the mirror turned Akko into Diana. And for some reason, that kind of scenario really doesn't seem to sit well with me. And I don't know what it is. So it became really hard for me to watch all of a sudden. And I kept on pausing it and playing it and pausing it. And I think it was more the idea of, oh no, Akko's going to do something dumb and it's going to ruin shit for Diana, even though, like, yeah, I agree. I get that Akko and Diana don't see eye to eye, but Diana's not necessarily a bad person, and she won't deserve. That kind of.
I see.
But she didn't do anything like that, though.
No, she
admittedly,
didn't.
Akko didn't do anything like that, but I just was like, okay, Akko, how are you going to fuck this up? How are you going to fuck this up? And admittedly, Akko was doing her best to avoid everyone,
except for Diana's friends.
Except for Diana's friends,
well, even
but that's
them.
her getting back at some bullies, who...
Yeah.
Well, even with that, it wasn't like she went to find them so she could play a prank on them.
No.
They ran up to her.
I loved it regardless.
As soon as Akko turned back into Akko again, and Diana actually came and explained, okay, this is obviously what happened, then the rest of the episode I could sit through it, play and watch it in one go, and it was fine. And if I was to rewatch it, I would be fine rewatching it. Because now I know that she doesn't exactly fuck everything up for Diana. But, yeah. There was actually an OVA to another series that the moment the OVA went in that direction, I just stopped watching it and I couldn't watch the whole thing. For exactly the same... kind of, okay, how is this character going to fuck things up for this other character because they look like them now? It's just hard for me to get through.
Hey, John, I'm just going to give you slight trigger warning about an episode of Utena.
Okay.
It's just all I'm going to drop, but...
I'm not surprised on that.
I mean, to be fair, it might not trigger him as much because I think that he is implying that he doesn't like it when rivals or characters that inadvertently don't like each other swap places.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's the case in Utena. I think he'll be okay, probably.
Or the person is a known troublemaker, even if they're not necessarily...
Oh,
even if they are actually friends, the fact that they are a troublemaker and they have that reputation, whereas the other person doesn't have that kind of as more of a respected reputation.
So what I'm also hearing from you here, though, is that you... really cared about the characters and keeping their integrity. So now I'm actually just curious. Did you enjoy Diana's character?
I really enjoyed Diana's character, and maybe part of that carried over from watching the OVA and knowing what I did about her from the OVA. And admittedly, looking back, that episode, that part where Akko switched into Diana in appearance, she got an opportunity to
read her diary
that she wouldn't have otherwise, and that gave her that insight into Diana's character that she wouldn't have before. So I appreciate it happening now that it's all happened, and I see now it's played out. I appreciate it happening.
I think also something to keep in mind, and maybe this is why I didn't approach that situation with as much fear and anxiety, is because of how it happened in the first place. Because she stepped in front of the mirror. It wasn't like she intentionally body swapped with Diana, for one. And two,
that's a good point.
The way she set it up was, or how the mirror set it up was, wow, how pathetic you are that you want to be this person. So that automatically showed that she had a certain level of respect for Diana to begin with. And three, Akko's not that kind of person.
I know
vindictive.
Akko's not the kind of person who would intentionally fuck things up for someone else, but I know that she sometimes rushes into things without thinking and causes problems without meaning to. And
which she did.
She did, but not as badly as I was expecting it to be. And then things cleared up immediately after. So
the show wouldn't go so far as to have Akko be perma transformed into Diana and fuck Diana's reputation over. It'd probably just be one wacky hijinks, and Diana would probably fix it.
To transfer over to something that I liked before something that I hated, I have a question for you guys that is, if I don't get to say anything else during the spoiler section, I have to ask.
Okay.
How much did you guys like or hate? I personally loved, but the fact that it ended up being that Chariot was the reason why Akko couldn't fly
good.
and couldn't
Very
perform
good.
I was like,
magic.
that is a neat twist, and I actually really like it.
I thought it was so good.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming, and when it was revealed, I was like, oh, fuck.
And again, tying this back a little to Diana, she also didn't have magic either, so
I know.
she had
and
to
it's like,
train.
Wait, Diana can't use magic? And then, wait, so Chariot is the reason why I can... Wait, so that's the reason Fuck.
I thought it was such a good way to justify a conflict in Akko's ideals, and also to justify the resolve out of it with Diana when she's like, I was in the same position you were, essentially, in a way, but I am living proof that we can get past this and we can, prosper.
Yes.
And I love that. I thought that was so cool. That was, one of my favorite lines from Diana ever.
But yeah. And I love how she continued that conversation, too, because even though she did say, I'm living proof that this can get better, of course, Akko's first response was, well, of course you are. Because you're so much better than me. But then she keeps talking and, gives her the card and just, holy fuck, I loved that scene. I can't even.
That whole scene was wonderful.
For sure.
And also would explain why the fuck Chariot wouldn't just tell her that she was Chariot. That was the one thing that bugged me the entire fucking show. Because I was like, why don't you just tell her? You're alone in a room with her for at least 60% of the series.
Yeah.
Come on. Or 60% of time she's with you. Why don't you just tell her? And then when that's revealed that is the case, it's like, oh, no wonder she didn't want to fucking tell her.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Also, as per traditional anime fashion, every time Ursula wanted to reveal it to her, wacky hijinks would ensue, or a student would barge through their door and just be like, quickly, we need to get to the thing, we need to do the thing!
And I didn't like that, because to me it was just so coming from a mile away. That every time I was like, someone's gonna come in, alright, here we go.
That was annoying.
Or... yeah, basically, I think that the entire setup, and again, it's hinted at in the OVAs, so we already know, but for a while, the way they really teased out the whole Ursula's Chariot thing, I was like, this is really just baity, and I don't like it, and I just want them to get it over with. But then having that extra layer of it, upon that reveal, I was like, oh, shit, okay, good. Now I'm impressed. This is awesome.
Yeah,
good job.
Especially because you don't see it coming like almost everything else in the show.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing about the show that, again, it's like, it's predictable. And, but that's one of the things I meant about things that I loved when I was a kid that I can't maybe appreciate as much now. Because, I mean, we knew who the antagonist was a mile away.
Cruella.
We knew that they were going to win in the end. We knew that it was all going to be them together fighting the final thing. We knew it was going to be Akko and Diana shooting it. Like, all of that I saw coming, but I could still appreciate because the younger me was like, ah! But at the same time, that can't carry the entire show. So that chariot reveal really, really gave me something that I didn't see coming. Though, again, and I'm going to stop talking and telling things I want to talk about after this, I promise. But to relate to that, everything that we know about Chariot also relates to Croa, the antagonist. And I feel like in comparison, I have no fucking clue
who the fuck Croa is.
Like, no, because the whole thing is that they set up that she was jealous that Chariot was chosen. And that I kind of got, especially because she tried to touch the rod and got shocked and stuff.
And then she's like, why?
And she's just like, why me? But then when Akko gets I can't remember whether it was like the 5th or 6th word, you have another flashback where she's encouraging Chariot and accepting her for who she is.
Yeah, right.
And then you go back to her being evil and jealous for some reason. Like, what happened? And then Craig tried to point out to me, well, maybe she was just manipulating her the whole time. And I was like, well, when a character tends to do that in anime, they at least show it in the footage for the audience, whether it be, they give a hug and then they have the evil smirk over their shoulder, or an inner monologue or something. But she genuinely seemed to be accepting Chariot and getting over her inner demons. And then she throws a hissy fit and decides that she hates her guts. I don't know.
And then she comes back and ruins the Magic Festa.
Well,
yeah.
I was very bored by her as a
it's like, what are her motivations? Like,
can I also point out the fact that Croa essentially played her hand by saying, oh, Ursula's Chariot, and then, or rather, what is it? What did she...
Ursula lied to you about the pollen or whatever?
That was it.
Is that what you're getting at?
That was it. She made Akko go to the pollen, and then Ursula's like, no, she's lying to you, and Akko's like, no, you're lying to me. She's cooler than you are, Ursula. And I'm like...
Well, that's not what she said.
I know.
She felt Ursula lied to her because all of the things were not bloomed. But
I still found it dumb.
Know, well, I mean, I think the whole point of this, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Croa actually wanted Akko to lose her ability
to use the
to
rod,
fly, and also to use magic, because that is something that can happen.
Yeah.
And if Akko loses her ability to be the deliverer of, the magic being able to be used by everybody, and like this new rejuvenated magic, if she takes that away, 1, she wins because she gets to be the person who saves the day, which seems to be her motivation.
Yep.
And 2, she gets to take away hope from Chariot.
Yeah.
So
okay,
it's not dumb or stupid, it's just very oddly executed.
Yeah, that's better. That's better phrasing. Good on you there for getting me with that.
I'm channeling my inner Cammy.
Yeah, I just like Croa as a character, like I didn't feel like she was very antagonistic. I mean, the manipulation of emotions, like a soccer game created like the Noir Rod, and the Noir Rod just showed up and turned into a giant monster and they killed it.
No,
I didn't.
She took advantage of the soccer game to take those bad emotions away from the people and fill it into the Noir Rod. And also, one thing I'm going to say is that it was clearly set in England, and something about my fellow countrymen, they can get very passionate about soccer games, especially the World Cup, which is what they were talking about. I can't help but feel like they were talking about a match between England and Germany.
Okay. Well, actually...
I mean, maybe that gives some more context, because I'm going to be honest, that was another thing that I was like... Really, guys?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna be rioting in the streets?
John,
Do they riot in the streets of England for football games and soccer games?
John, is that actually true? Has it actually...
They
Oh,
can.
wow. Okay, thank you for giving context.
There have actually been riots police called to break up disputes amongst soccer fans after, especially after World Cup.
Well, that I can understand because that happens here too, I feel. But like mass groups of people, like.
But
I could see it.
I don't know.
But again, I think
but
it's
again, there was her fueling it by manipulating the media to show the other country burning the flags and stuff.
They were burning flags?
To rile each other. I think they were implying that.
I didn't see any flags burned. Did I miss that?
There was a fire involved. I think I might have jumped to conclusions about it being flag being burned, but there was. She was manipulating it, and I maybe it was me reading into it too much, but that's what I took it as, and she was riling the two sides.
Interesting.
Up, I felt, and making the situation even worse, in order to get more of that anger, energy out of everyone.
Yeah. Maybe I didn't read it. Maybe you're not reading too much into it. Maybe I'm not reading enough into it because I feel personally, I felt they could have found something, especially because these two countries, they make it sound like they've had very tense relations in the past as is. And to me, it just seemed very odd for something as small and insignificant as a football game to cause such tension, to the fact that they think they'd launch literally a missile at the other person. But I mean...
Is that what happened?
But hey...
Very exaggerated, but like I can see the connections and where it might have come from, because...
It might be.
So my
yeah.
Guys, I just really, really, really love Akko and Andrew.
Oh,
and
I
know
do
not
too.
everyone is with me on it, but I love them.
I do too. And it makes me happy that you do, because it's like I can't even talk about it with anyone else, because I got into a conversation with John, for example, and he's like, yeah, I mean, okay, that's a thing, I guess, but insert other ship here. And I'm like, could you at least let me have my moment? Okay, never mind. I'll just have it with Cammy later.
I'm glad I'm with John. I'm with John.
I'm with you.
I'm sorry.
I don't tend to start
I figured you guys wouldn't like it. Like, it makes sense.
It's
but
fine.
Cassie and I
know it makes sense. I just want to cling to my ship.
And that's okay.
I will go down with my ship.
Akko X Diana.
That is A-okay.
Goes down with the ship, the Titanic.
I actually find it hilarious that for once it's just like, I feel like me and Cammy are shipping the thing that is more canon, and you guys are doing the homosexual pair. Point. This is normally in reverse.
yeah, it's...
It normally is in reverse of this.
Although I can see it, though, right? I can see both aspects of it.
Yeah. I can see the,
Andrew.
I swear to God, though, I swear to God, Craig, from now on, whenever I talk about Hunter x Hunter and how Killua and Gon are amazing and how I ship them together, and you're like, oh, but the show makes it seem like they're just really good friends, I can throw that right back in your face.
What's Hunter x Hunter again?
Because that's
I also ship Gon Killua.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
You never oh, dude, we have things to talk about.
I'm sure I told you I shipped
Son,
them.
No, you just told me that you tolerate.
No,
you made it seem like you tolerate it, just like everybody else.
I've heard him say that.
I've never heard him say, I ship this pairing.
Listen, it's all about,
He may send me things occasionally, but I think he's just being nice.
Fuck.
You do that too. Okay, now we're getting off
We're
topic.
going
but
off
yes,
topic.
Cammy, I agree with you. It's great. And the maybe to make things a little bit better and open to everyone, the relationships and character development between characters is great. But Andrew and Akko are best and everything is
I'm sorry, one more time for the class.
Oh, nothing. I was just talking about how, everybody has an equal opportunity and the relationships are great and no one pairing is better than the other except Akko and Andrew.
We can all universally agree that the whole little hint at potential Lotte and Frank
I actually agree on that one.
That was cute.
Oh, yes.
I squeezed so hard.
It.
I was just like, oh my god.
especially because it happened like right after, like, you know, all these guys were like flocking to her, and as soon as the effect went off, they were just like, oh, you're boring and uneventful, and walked away from her. But he was the only one that was like, hey, you're pretty cute.
Yeah,
and then she's just like, maybe we can just be friends first.
Yeah, you need to get to
it
know
was
it.
so
But
sweet.
they still decided to go hang out a bit.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm just saying, like, how old-fashioned and cute it is. Like, I'm not mocking it. I think it's adorable.
No. Yeah, I really love that aspect of it. It's like, yes, you go.
And that's just very true to, like, Lotte's character, too. You know, they didn't make her just be like, I'm too shy, so I didn't want to. She's like, I am taking it seriously, but I also think that friendship needs to come first. Like, you know, those little touches, again, on the characters is what makes them so enjoyable, I think. Show's good. And I was never expecting any potential string of romance, like, in any degree out of this show. So that was a really pleasant surprise
also,
for me.
going back to the animation style switch, the sudden exaggerated Utena style of the character design.
Yes.
I love you.
When they would look at each other. Oh, also, actually, guys, you see, the reason why I can't ship Akko and Diana is because my OTP for Diana is Diana X Diana and Mir.
You're right.
Yeah, that was pretty beautiful.
I ship that. I might even ship that more than Akko and Andrew.
Guys, do we have anything else to say before we wrap up here? We're running a little we're running a little over, but that's all good.
Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. There's a tiny spot I need to cut out anyway, and I think an hour and a half, hour to 40 is fine. The only other thing that I can think to say is that I lost it. Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good too. Cammy, John?
Oh, wait, one other thing.
Oh, she got it back.
And it'll be yes.
Light bulb.
The fact that all the girls flew the broom into the air to take the missile off, and each of them broke one by one.
That was
I thought it
awesome.
I thought it was super stupid and cheesy and completely something I saw coming, but I loved every second of it, and it was great.
It was so feels. I agree.
And to cap off to cap off my bit, she flew in the end, guys. She flew without even trying.
Yes.
No, that was so precious. I didn't
like,
think she was gonna be, and she floated a little low, and she wasn't trying. It was so.
I've seen images.
She was absolutely.
Where
she was giggling the entire time, and then they're like, "Hey, wait, you're flying." What?
Yatta.
So
I like to think afterwards she walked up to Ursula and was like, "Hey, look what I can do." And then Ursula's like, dude, bro, really? And she's like, look what I can do.
Dude, bro, look what I can do. I can float everywhere.
And you can't.
Ursula can't fly anymore.
No,
that was the joke I was making, yes.
That's something else. It's so rude. Alrighty, guys. Well, that just about does it for Any Chat Box episode 26. Let us know what you thought of our topic. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Let us know what you thought of our review of Little Witch Academia, and if you ship Akko x Diana, or Akko x Andrew, or Lotte x Susie. Either way.
Wow.
That is one.
Thank you all for listening. Have an excellent night.
Oyasumi nasai.
Night. Goodbye.
Night.
Peace.